All right, thank you for joining me for episode 4 of our series we're putting together to unlock the entire fretboard on the guitar. Today's episode is all about the guitarist's favorite, the pentatonic scale. So come on, let's learn something. Okay, so pentatonic scales. So if you don't know what a pentatonic scale is, it's a 5-note scale. So the first video we talked about major scales. Those are 7-note scales. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 before the next C or the next root note. The pentatonic scale is a 5-note scale, so there's only going to be 5 notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have the next root again. So you can think of a pentatonic scale kind of like a skeleton of the major scales, or in some cases it's kind of like the best sounding notes out of that scale. So the first position we're going to talk about is the one most guitar players will know already. So this is the A minor pentatonic scale, or the pentatonic box, as some people will refer to it as. So we're starting on A, so this is the 5th fret. And this is going to be the root for this position. Then your C on the 8th fret is your next note, and that's going to be the minor 3rd of this position, or this chord. Then you have the D on the next string, which is the 5th fret. And that's the 4th scale degree. Then you have the E, which is the 7th fret, and that's your 5th of the chord. The next string, you have the G, which is your minor 7th. That's again on the 5th fret. Then you're back to A, which is your root on the 7th fret. And then we do the same thing in the next octave. So minor 3rd, which is the C on the 5th fret, to the D, which is your 4th. That's the 7th fret. Then your 5th, which is E, so that's the 5th fret on the 2nd string. Then your G, which is again your minor 7th, and that's the 8th fret. Then your last string is E on the 5th fret, that's your root, or I'm sorry, A, that's your root, and then your minor 3rd, which is again C on the 8th fret. So this position works really well over any kind of minor chord. So you have the root, the minor 3rd, the 5th, the minor 7th, really easily accessible, or the arpeggio of that chord. An arpeggio is also like the chord tones or the notes that make up the chord. So they're all really easy to get to. The only one that's not in the chord is the 4th, so those two D notes. So if you're playing the arpeggio, you'll leave that note out, but if you're playing within the position, you can put that note in and it'll sound good all day. Especially over blues and rock music, you hear it all over the place. The second position works really well over major chords, or in some cases even dominant chords, because this position's not going to have a 7th in it, so of the chord, so it works over both tonalities. So the C is now our root, and again that's the 8th fret. Then the D is the 2nd of the scale, or the 9th, depending on what octave you play it in. So that's the 10th fret. Then the E now becomes your major 3rd. That's again the 7th fret on the 5th string. The G now becomes your 5th of the chord, so that's the 10th fret on the 5th string. Then you have the A note, which is the major 6th. So like I said, it doesn't have a 7th, but this position has a 6th. So it works over both major 7th and dominant 7th chords. And then you're back to your root on the 10th fret, which is C again. Then your 9th is D, or the 2nd. And then the major 3rd, which is E. It's your 7th, your 9th fret, excuse me. Then your G, which is the 5th on the next string, so that's the 8th fret. Then your A again, so that's your major 6th. And then your root again is the 8th fret on the 1st string. And then again your 9th, or your 2nd, is the D. So this one works really well over all your major chords, like I said earlier. So you can do major, just triads, you can do major 7ths, it'll work. You do dominant 7ths, or you could even do 6 chords, and it'll work really well over all of that. And you'll hear this again in blues and all kinds of music, especially like Albert King and people like that. You hear them up in this higher part all the time. So the third position is a little different. So this one, if you think of the D as the root, it doesn't give you a 3rd, but it does give you a 7th. So you can think of it like as a suspended chord sound. So like a D suspended, or maybe with a 9th in it, because you do get the E as well. So like a D7 with a sus4 and a sus9, or D9 sus4. So the root is now D, so that's your 10th fret. The E is your 2nd fret, and that's going to be your 9th, or the 2nd. The G is the 4th, so that will be the sus4 part of it. The A on the 12th fret is your 5th. And then the C is your minor 7th. And that's on the 10th fret as well, on the 4th string. And then you're back to your root on the 12th. Then your 9th. And this is actually the 9th fret as well, on the 3rd string. Then the 4th, which is your G on the 12th fret. The A, which is your 5th on the 10th fret. C, which is the minor 7th on the 13th fret. And then D, which is the root again. And then again your 9th or 2nd, which is E. So again, since this one doesn't have a 3rd in the chord, you can play it over both technically major or minor chords and it would work. But it's going to give you kind of this D sus 9 sus 4 kind of sound. So it's not really fully resolved sounding like the other two are. The 4th position here, we can play it up here at the 12th fret or the open string, either one, or so this one, if you think of E as being the root, I'm going to stay down here on the open string. If you think of E as being the root, it becomes like an E major, or excuse me, E minor 6 kind of sound, or E minor 6, the 9th kind of sound. Well, I guess it'd be like that. There's no 9th in the scale. The way I think about this one, to keep it a little bit more simple than that, is it's like the A minor position or the first position, but now your A is on the 5th string. And then you can go back up. That's how I personally think about it, and for me that makes it a little bit simpler than thinking of it as an E with a minor 6th, or like a natural minor kind of sound. So whichever way is easier for you will work. So E is our starting note, and I'm going to spell it out like how I'm thinking about it. So the A minor scale off the 5th string. So you start on the 5th of the chord, which is E, which is the open string. Then your minor 7th, which is the G. Then your root. Then your minor 3rd, which is C. Then the 4th, which is D. The 5th, which is E. The minor 7th, which is G. The root again, which is A. Minor 3rd, which is C. The 4th, excuse me, which is D. Then your 5th, which is E, and your minor 7th, which is G. So for me, that makes it a little bit easier to keep track of everything. It's just, again, taking the root from the 6th string to the 5th string. And then our last position, the 5th position, is kind of the same thing as the same idea as the C major one up here that we use, the 2nd position. But again, putting that root on the 5th string. So you have this C major kind of sound. If you think of it as the G being the root, it becomes another kind of suspended kind of sound because you don't have a 3rd. So it'd be like a G6, 9 with a suspended 4th. Or like an A minor with a G in the bass. So thinking about it that way can be a little bit much sometimes. So again, I just think about it as C with the 5th string being your root note. So that's how I'm going to spell it out as well. So starting again on the 5th. So that's the G in this case. Then your major 6, which is A. Then your root, which is C, the 3rd fret. D, which is your 9th or the 2nd. Your major 3rd, which is E. Then your 5th, which is G again. Then again your major 6th, A. Back to the root, which is C. 9th, which is D. Major 3rd, which is E. And then the 5th, which is G again. And your major 6th, which is A. So doing it like that, again, you get this really nice C6-9 kind of position. And it, again, just like the first position where I was outlining the arpeggio notes, that's really easy to do in the 1st position and the 2nd position. Now you would outline the 6th instead of the 7th. Same thing on the 4th position, but off the 5th string. And then the 5th position, but again, that's 6th. And then the 3rd position, the one in the middle, is kind of the weird one. It's always going to kind of sound unresolved. I guess it just depends on how you play it, but thinking about it from the D root, it's always going to sound unresolved. So that one I kind of use personally as like a bridge between like maybe the A minor one position up here it to the second position or even the first position. So maybe something like that, which without the chromatic step there. All right, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing so I have more lessons out in the future. Also, down in the description box, remember there's free PDF downloads for everything we covered in the video. So the link will take you to my website, joshuaparkermusic.com. There you can download the PDFs, you can inquire about lessons, or see all the music that I've released as well. All right, have a good day. Thank you.